Hello everyone, you're welcome again to my channel, The Mediator's Talk, where we talk about mediation, how mediation is made easy, and how important mediation is all about to our society. Today, we'll be talking about why mediation is the future of justice in Nigeria. And in our previous videos, we talked about how mediation is already existing, how we are coexisting with it, how it's existing in our culture, how it's existing in our religion, how it's existing in our tradition, how it's existing in our everyday life, in our homes, in churches, in mosques. Mediation is everywhere, but there is a statutory mediation, an institutionalized system put in place for conflict resolution. There are a number of institutions that carry out these functions, these responsibilities. Individuals are involved, organizations are involved. Lagos State is heavy on mediation. They have a lot of arms of judiciary, responsible for mediation processes. Today, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about why mediation is the future of justice in Nigeria. If you have ever been involved in a court case that has taken a toll on you, lasting for years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. I once had a case in court that lasted for 1 year, and it was really draining. And later, when I came across the process of mediation, I was like, oh, if I had known about it then, I would have gone for mediation instead of going through a litigation process. Nobody is saying litigation is not good. In mediation, you cannot handle anything that has to do with criminal activities, criminal cases. So litigation still has its way and still has its benefits in the society. But today we'll be talking why we need to make mediation a foundation in the Nigerian justice system. If you have ever lost a relationship, it goes. If you take there are a lot of issues with litigation, and there are some cultures. It is believed that anybody that takes anybody to court is an enemy. So the mediation process actually helps us to soothing relationships, soothing pain in conflict and in dispute. If you have ever lost money, if you have ever lost relationship, if you have ever lost peace of mind, even health, you will know that okay, going through the rigor of litigation, might be very draining and very taxing, very embodying, especially for cases that you can actually just mediate over. So today I want to talk more about mediation, defining mediation properly. We've talked about it, how it is part of our life, how it's existing everywhere, how there is mediation in the home, how there is mediation in the church, how there is mediation in the mosque, how there is mediation in the town hall, how there is mediation in the palaces. But today we'll be talking more about the definition of the mediation process. Mediation on its own is a very powerful, humane and cost-effective and cultural compatible method of resolving disputes in Nigeria. It is not a theory. It's not that okay. It is one thing people are talking about. It's a practical process. It is not a foreign ideology. It is within us. I will talk more about Lagos State because I have seen what Lagos State is doing with mediation, and it's a very, very beautiful process they have in place in helping people resolve disputes. Just this week, I saw the Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency boss come on air to talk about the processes involved in resolving conflict, especially the one that really blew my mind was online, with the cases with online vendors. The cases of what I ordered versus what I got. Actually just blew my mind when he talked about it, that they have a lot of it. So what it means is that instead of actually just dragging some issues to court, the courts are overwhelmed with cases. There are some cases that we can just take to mediation centers, take to mediators to handle for us. So it is not a foreign thing, it is part of our system. Lagos State is doing it very well. And some other states in Nigeria, they are really, really involved in it. So it is justice. Like I mentioned in my last video, there are what we call mediation judges. They actually notarize whatever agreements that you sign, whatever resolution that you come to, you sign it and it is binding. So it is not that okay, you agree on a contract, you agree on an issue, and somebody relents on it or backs out. It's not that simple. Once you agree on it, it is binding. So it is done differently and done more in a more compassionate way. So it is not like okay, it is enforced in such a way that it is telling on either party. Both parties resolve their issues more compassionately. Another issue we need to delve into about mediation is the voluntary and the confidential process. Like in litigation, litigation is done in an open court process, but mediation is done in an enclosed system. It is confidential, it is voluntary, it is not mandatory. Like I said, there are cases you don't have to take to court to take for mediation. You can actually just take it to a mediation center or you meet the mediator to help you resolve this issue. So mediation is a voluntary and confidential process. It's a process whereby disputing parties come together to resolve their conflict with the help of a neutral. Since I needed to take care of the keyword, a neutral third party. It's a voluntary process, it's a confidential process, it's a process whereby parties come together and they engage the services of a neutral third party called a mediator. So the mediator will help them through the process of resolving their conflict. So in the process of doing this, the mediator is not a judge. So what it means is that the mediation does not give sanctions, does not rule. The mediator does not impose anything, any judgment. The mediator is not a judge. The mediator does not impose any decision on you at all. So what he does is to help you through the process of the two parties or more resolving their conflict. The mediator facilitates the discussion, understanding, and help them to reach an agreement. He facilitates. So he's just there more like an umpire, an unbiased umpire. Doesn't take sides. The mediator is not involved in your issues. All he does is to help you through the process of dialogue and helping you understand your issues and helping you reach an agreement. That is the process of mediation, and nobody is declared a loser. You are not a loser in mediation. What happens is that a balance is struck at the end of the day, and a decision is made by the parties. They enter into agreement by themselves. So it's a very simple process, very, very amiable process. Nobody is forced. You are not cajoled into taking any decision. Like I mentioned in one of my videos, where another preside over, if another preside over an issue, take for instance a 6 plot of land dispute, if they have agreed that two parties should share the land, three plots, if a third party suffers, the Oba has the power to actually just say, okay, and after hearing their issues, we can actually now extend to the third party by giving everybody 50 plots of land. But mediation is not that way. And the mediator actually just helps them facilitate the process for them to agree on their own. They agree. So if they agree to admit the third party and they share amongst themselves, whatever they share is not the basis of the mediation. You just only help them ensure that the decision that has been taken, the resolution, the agreement is favorable to all parties, you know, and everybody is heard in mediation. You talk about your issues, you talk about your issues. The mediator help them to unravel the issues, and the issues are settled amicably.